Good morning, class.
Good morning.
This is lesson number 7. Today is July the 16th, the year of 2023. The topic of today's lesson is a warning for the hard-hearted. And that's coming from Luke the 16th chapter, 19th through 31st verse. The time is 30 AD and the place is Perea. Golden text, it reads, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. And that's Luke 16th chapter, 25th verse. Today's aim is to learn some key details about what happens after death. The principle is to understand that the meaning of the story will open our eyes to understanding other truths. And the application is to be alert to the fact that our lives and our beliefs have end results. So whatever you do here in life, it don't stop here.
Yeah.
So mind what you do, mind how you act, mind how you treat people, because this will follow you
Amen.
in the afterlife. So if you mistreat people here, the things that we sow, so shall we reap. So
Right.
the way we treat people here, we will get that payoff back
Right.
in the afterlife. As we read in this lesson here, we find what happens to the rich man.
Mm-hmm.
So the rich man, he lived a life of luxury. And Lazarus was a poor beggar.
Mm-hmm.
Lazarus begged for anything, and the rich man walked all over him, didn't want to give him anything. And the only thing that he asked for was the scraps on that fell from his table.
Yeah.
Not even a piece of it. He just wanted just the scraps from it. So whatever fell from his mouth onto the floor is all he asked for. And he couldn't get that.
That's right.
So I'm not going to tell the whole story, because like I say before, I'll tell the whole story and go through the whole lesson, and nobody heard anything that the scriptures say. But just keep in mind that the way we act, it does have repercussions that comes along behind that.
That's right.
So we're going to begin at the 19th verse. It says, There was a certain rich man, which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate, full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. Now, like I always tell you, this is a parable, okay? So don't ask me to explain the parable. I'm going to put this parable just like how it was told to the people. This parable was a story to get you to understand the facts of life. So it says a certain rich man, which means it was just a rich man. Okay?
Yeah.
So don't let me try to put a name behind it, because the name isn't even in the Bible. And when they even talk about Lazarus here, understand the meaning of the name Lazarus. One whom God helps. So, understanding that this is just a story, okay? And I'm going to help you understand what this story means. So, it goes on by saying that this rich man was clothed in purple and fine linen. Now, that color purple that he was clothed in, it represented royalty. But let's not get to assuming, okay? Because assumptions gets you nowhere in life. All right, it's just like if you take, for instance, the book of Joshua. Okay, if you go through the book of Joshua, I think the first chapter from the 8th verse, and then it runs on through, it talks about how they was getting ready to infiltrate Jericho, and they sent in spies into Jericho. And those spies, in order to get away, they ran into the prostitute's house.
Yeah.
Now, people can assume that because they saw them go into that house, that they was going to meet with the prostitute. But understanding the true facts behind it. So assumptions gets you nowhere. Because to assume what they was going to do, you will always think something negative because of the household that they was going into. But it was the fact that Rahab was one, she was known for hiding people. You know, so that's the reason they ran into that house. So being that you assuming certain things, it will cause you to make the wrong assumptions. Know the facts. And a lot of the times when you get your information into your head, sometimes it's wise to keep that to yourself unless all you are doing is having a casual conversation. Okay? So it never said that he was royalty. It just said that he was dressed in purple, which purple was known of a color of royalty. And it says that he wore fine linen and he was fared sumptuously every day. Meaning people, I'm not going to say that people liked him, but people got along with who he was. Okay? Because just because you're a rich man and people gets along with you don't mean that people like you.
Right.
People like the fact that you can do things for them. And being that you are in a position that is other than Lazarus was, you wasn't in the position where you had to beg, and sometimes you can always come back and offer something to him. He liked you too. So we can assume that he was a good man. We can assume that he was a bad man. But like I said, assumptions get you nowhere. All right. So it says, and there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, one whom God helps. Okay. There was a certain rich man named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores. Now, assuming what's going on with Lazarus, because of the fact that he was laid at the gate, we can kind of say that probably he was crippled. He couldn't walk. He couldn't do anything because he was laid. They didn't say that he went and laid there. They said he was laid, means somebody put him there. Okay, so being that somebody put him there means he couldn't do anything on his own. So they laid him at the rich man's gate because back in those days, at the rich man's gate, the palace gates, places of high traffic, that's where the beggars always sat to get money from people. Yeah. Or get things. I'm just going to say things. I'm not going to say money because most of the time they wasn't getting money. They was getting things. Okay, so he was laid at the gate. And it says that he was full of sores, which means that his illness was more than just a sickness. He had something else, some type of infection growing on him. And it says, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. Now, if I was to go back before this story even began, I know they don't really give a beginning to this story, but thinking that it's just a story, I'm going to add a little bit to it. I'm going to say that maybe the rich man came and Lazarus started asking. Lazarus started asking the rich man for certain things, and the rich man looked at him and said, you know what, no, get away from me. You know, you're unclean. I can't touch you. You know, move. Go on someplace else and get what you want. Said, you'll be lucky that I allow you to sit here. Okay, just go on about your business. So that's the rich man's attitude. Yeah. And being that Lazarus only asked for the crumbs means he wasn't greedy. He wasn't like any of those out there in the street saying, hey, I know you're rich. Give me $5. Give me 10. He wasn't asking for anything like that. He says the only thing that I want is the crumbs that fall from your table. So like I'm going to say how the rich man did Lazarus is just like we do certain people out in the streets today.
That's right.
Some people, you see them coming down the street, and before they get to you, you turn and go another direction just to avoid passing them because you don't want that conversation because you already know that they're going to ask for certain things. So to avoid these things, you're going to go a different direction, And if they do get the chance to ask you for certain things, let's say that they say, hey, you got 50 cents or $1 you can let me have? I ain't got it. Knowing that you got it in your pocket.
That's right.
But you would say, I ain't got it, and I ain't got nothing on me right now. I ain't got nothing on me. And you'll walk right on past them. Because in your mind, you're assuming that they're going to do something other than the best with the money that you give them. Assumption is what messes us up in life. Assuming. And see, the thing about assuming, the rich man assumed that Lazarus wasn't nothing. He assumed that if he gave Lazarus anything, that it wasn't going to benefit Lazarus, because Lazarus probably was going to take it and do something that he shouldn't have did with it anyway, because he was assuming. Yeah, I'm paraphrasing a little bit of stuff, because it's not in this Bible. This is just things that I'm thinking of right now, because that's how people look at us in life. They look at us as what they think, not what they know. And it says here that the dogs came and licked his sores, meaning the dogs showed more compassion than the rich man did.
Yeah.
The dogs came and they saw a problem and tried to help soothe his problem. And the only thing that Lazarus asked for was a little bit of crumbs. But yet the dogs was the only one that came and said, I see that you are in pain. Let me see what I can do to help. I know the dogs wasn't talking, but that's just what I'm guessing. The dogs came up and dogs just licked the sores and said, I'm going to help you ease this pain on. It's something about dogs. Okay?
Yeah.
Dog come up and lick you. It tells you a story. Okay? Right. Dog come up to you and they lick you on the leg or they lick you on the hand or the face or something like that. And that says that that dog cares about you.
Because he can lick your hand, you don't give him nothing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So it's just something about a dog. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just because I'm a dog lover. But it says, and it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. Okay, let's pay close attention to that. Let's dwell on that just a little bit, okay? It says here, now this is something that's going to happen to us all. Whether you like it or not, if you didn't want to die, you shouldn't have been born, is what I've been told. So all I'm saying is we're going to all have to go through this process at some time.
Right.
Now, when I says acknowledge what you do in life, you know, the actions that you have, the ways you treat people, you know, pay close attention to that, because it's going to follow you as it followed the rich man. You know, it says, and it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom.
Right.
Okay, the beggar died and he was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. Okay. No, I'm not saying that he was stuck right here on Abraham. No, that means he was close by Abraham, sitting by his side, you know, dwelling with Abraham in paradise. Okay, that's what they mean by in his bosom. He was right there. You know, so being that he was right there in paradise, that meant that he was on the right path. Okay, and then it says here that the rich man also died. But see, he was buried. Don't start guessing certain things and say, you know what, when I die, don't y'all bury me. I'm going to sit here and wait. No, that's not what they're talking about here. So we're not going to have nobody up here just laying around after they're gone. Okay? You got to go. You got to go. I don't want to see you either. I love to see you, but I don't want to see you. Okay? So it right here is the rich man also died and was buried. And in hell, he lifted his eyes. Like again, you can assume that from his casket, that's hell. Okay? You can assume these things. We're not trying to assume anything. We are believing that there is a heaven and there is a hell. We're believing these things. We're not going to assume that we are living in hell right now, because most of the time, if you get people understanding that this is hell, they'll stop trying to live right, because they can say, I can deal with this.
Yeah.
This is not hell, okay?
So ain't.
All right, it says, and in hell he lifted his eyes, being in torments. Okay? Means everything is hitting him all at once.
Yeah, that's it.
He can't stop it. It's coming. And seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. Oh, see, now this is how bad it is going to be. Y'all remember what happened to the children when they came out of Israel? Well, out of Egypt, how those Israelites did. You know, when they started acting up and started doing all wrong things, and God started punishing, and then they started acting right. And then they started messing up again, and God started punishing, then they started back acting right. And then sooner or later, God says, you know what? I'm tired of this. You know, so they started acting up, and he opened up the earth.
Yeah.
And swallowed them up. But what was they doing when the earth swallowed them up? They watched the whole thing. They wasn't asleep. They wasn't dead. They watched the whole thing. So as the rich man opened his eyes up in hell, he was watching everything that he missed out on. Hurtful. To be able to understand that before you died, you had it all. You had all the money in the world. You had all the friends. You had whatever it was you ever wanted on the planet of this earth. You had it all. And now you wake up and you're in hell, being tormented daily, burning. And then you look up and you see that beggar that was sitting at your gate asking you for little things, and you denying him, sitting in paradise. Now, by the simple fact that he can look up and he can see these things, let me just kind of stop some assumption, because there's going to be some assumption. People's going to assume that Lazarus was in heaven. Okay? Let's not assume. Okay? Let's take what we already know. He was in paradise. Okay? He was in paradise. That's not heaven. He wasn't in heaven. So when you leave here, you go to paradise if you have done what you were supposed to do this whole entire time. You go to paradise, which is a resting place, a meeting place for everybody until Judgment Day.
Amen.
Once Judgment Day comes, then we'll step foot up into heaven. But until then, we're sitting in paradise. You notice that it never said that God met him. Abraham met him. And the thing about this is, I don't want you to continue assuming the fact that the rich man went to hell and the poor man went to heavens, and you say, well, poor man, he didn't have much, so he couldn't do much, so naturally he's just going to go to heaven. No, that's not true. And don't just think that just because this rich man had everything, that naturally he was going to hell because there was things that he wasn't doing right to get what he got. Because there are some rich people that are pure-breeded Christians. There are some poor people who is just rotten and devilish. Okay? So just because you don't mean that you're going to treat people good. And just because you have everything don't mean that you're going to treat people bad. So let's not assume that certain people are certain ways based on what they have materially. These are just material things. So this rich man, he went to hell because of the things that he did in life, not because of his possessions. Lazarus went to heaven or paradise because of the things that he did in life, not because of what he had or didn't have. Now listen here. It says, and he cried out saying, Father Abraham. This is the rich man talking. Okay, the rich man cried out saying, Father Abraham. Which right there lets me know that he was a Jew, okay? Because he understood and he knew that that was Father Abraham. And he didn't call him Abraham. He didn't call him Abe. He didn't call him bruh. Hey, yo, he didn't say none of these things. He said Father Abraham because he knew that he was the father of all. Father Abraham. So, everybody that know the word don't live by the word. Understand that?
Yeah.
This rich man knew exactly what the Bible said. He knew exactly what Jesus spoke of. He didn't live by it. See, being a true Christian is more to just knowing what you're supposed to do. It's about doing what you're supposed to do. You can know everything in the world, but if you don't do it, it means nothing.
That's right.
Lazarus, he had a different position. See, there was a lot of things that Lazarus couldn't do. But that didn't stop him from doing what God expected him to do. Just because he couldn't walk didn't mean he couldn't do what God asked him to do. He didn't have the money. He didn't have the clothes. He didn't have the food. He didn't have the medical attention. He didn't have any of these things. Now, if the rich man would have taken it upon himself to do what was right, he had to walk past the beggar. And I'm going to tell you how he knew who this beggar was. It's farther down in the lesson. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you. How he knew who this beggar was is because when he was talking to Abraham, he called him by his name. He says, I see you up there with Lazarus. Can you send him down here? So he already knew who that was, which means when he walked past him every day, he had every opportunity to do what is right. And never did. And it's because of this little thing that we live by in life. I got time. We live by that every day. I got time. Well, you don't have any more time than the present time. This is all the time that you have. Is right now. This is it. I have this time. And if I don't do what's right with this time that I have right now, who's to say that I'm going to have the next time?
That's right.
In the book of life, you get but one chance.
That's all.
Now, you can have as many chances as you want in your household. Hey, I ain't going to do it no more. I promise I ain't going to do it no more. Okay, I ain't going to do it this time. Okay, next time, I promise I ain't going to do it next time. Mm-hmm. Now, you can do that all you want in your house. But when it comes to God, see, you can make God all the promises in the world that you want to make. He already know. So who you lying to? He says here, have mercy on me and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame.
Yes.
Okay, so while he was living, he commanded people to do certain things for him. He had servants to do things for him. People ran errands for him while he was living, and he still expects the same thing now that he's gone. This one man that just asked for just the scraps that fell off of his table that the dogs normally would lick up, he's going to ask him to do him a favor. And he wouldn't do him one. But Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. So now that the tables have turned, now that the tables have turned, you want him to come and comfort you.
Yeah.
All the time while Lazarus was sitting at your gate hurting, in pain, hungry, couldn't do nothing for himself. You want to walk past him and treat him like a dog. And now that the tables has turned, now you want Lazarus to come and help you out. Mind how you treat people, okay?
That's right.
Because that one person that you mistreat might be the one that you're going to need later.
Amen.
And if you mistreat this person, God forbids that this person have a heart like yours. Because if you mistreat this person and now you need, and they're the only one standing in your path, I hate to be you. The tables will turn.
Sure will.
You know, it speaks of it in the Bible. It says that was first will be last. It speaks of it in the Bible. So just because you're on top now don't mean you're going to stay there.
That's right. We'll come down.
And like I said, it works in reverse too. So just because you've been on the bottom this whole time don't mean you're going to stay there. The one thing you need to pay close attention to is remember where you came from. When you can remember where you came from, you'll know how to treat the next. Right. Because you know what it took for you to get there. And this is what I mean by remembering. You start from the bottom. Now you on top. If you forgot what it took for you to get to the top, and you happen to get knocked back down to the bottom, if you remember, it won't be that hard to get back up. But if you forgot, it's going to take you forever to get back. There's always a helping hand when you need. Always. So remember how you treat people. Treat people with kindness and respect. The Bible teaches us this. Treat people the way you want to be treated. That's how the Bible tells us to treat people. It says, and besides all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed. There's a separation here. Okay?
Yeah.
Nothing can pass. There's a separation. Okay, so all of these demands that he's asking for, you might as well cancel that because he's had his chance while he was here.
Yeah.
While he was living, he had his chance. So right now, we are divided. See, back when you were still living, if you wanted Lazarus to do something for you, you had to do something for Lazarus.
That's right.
Because these things work together.
Yeah.
But now that you are gone, you in the other life, there's a division. Lazarus can't go to you and you can't come to him. So that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. Like I just said, Lazarus can't go to you and you can't go to him.
That's right.
You can't leave where you are. Lazarus can't leave where he is. The difference is Lazarus ain't want to go nowhere.
Nope.
But you want to get out of that.
Yeah.
Because of all the things that, let's say it like this here. You know how the song goes, you're sending up your timber?
Yeah.
Okay, like I said before, that goes in reverse too. Okay, so if you send it up your timber to make your mansion once you get to heaven, so you'll have a big pretty mansion to live in when you get there, you got to send that timber up. If you're doing bad things your whole life, you're sending timber down. So the thing is, the more timber you send down to the fire, the hotter that fire gets. Y'all see how this works? So you can either send up a lot of wood and make yourself a great big pretty mansion, or you can send down a whole lot of wood and create a big huge fire.
That's right.
Some people is going to be living in heat. You know, so much of heat, I think the devil probably want to get from down there. The devil probably say, y'all is worse than me. You know, so let's not send that much down there. I don't want to send none down there. I know I probably done sent a few pieces down there. Because everybody has sinned a time or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times in their life.
Right.
Everybody has. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I've been perfect my whole entire life, because no, I haven't.
No.
But there was a time to start. At this time, if you have not started yet, this time right here is the time to start. The present time is the best time.
Right.
And see, right now you have no more excuses because I'm standing here telling you about everything that you so-called claim to not know. And like they say, you can only be accounted for what you know. I'm telling you. So now you know. So now you're accounted. I'm sorry. I done got you in trouble. Then he said, I pray thee, therefore, Father, that thou wouldest send him to my father's house. There you go, sending some more demands. Sending more demands. And see, this demand that he's sending is a demand that many of us would send. Because although brothers and sisters, cousins and all them, we fuss and we fight amongst each other. We all do that or have done that in our time. We have done that. Even though we fuss and fight and we say, I can't stand you, I don't like you, we still love them. So we're going to do everything that we can to make sure if we made a mistake, we're going to try to stop them from making that same mistake. He says to send him to his father's house because he hath 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. He don't want them to go through what he's going. And see, remind you this here. He just opened his eyes. Y'all hear what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
He just opened his eyes, meaning he died, boom, eyes open. Now I'm tormented, and I can't stand it any longer. Ain't been down there but a minute or two. I can't stand it no longer. He just got down there. And he's already ready to leave. And it's so bad, he don't want nobody that he loves to go through that. But check what reality says about this here. Abraham said unto him, they have Moses and the prophets. Let them hear them. The same way that you was able to hear what was right. See, he knew who Abraham was.
Yeah.
Which means he heard him. He didn't pay him no attention. He understood all the things that was written in the word. He understood it. You know how many people out there in the street can recite the Bible and still mistreat you?
That's right.
Huh? These people know every word in the Bible and treat you like dirt. They can quote scriptures. It's not about knowing how to quote the scriptures. It's about living the life of the word.
Yeah.
If you can't live the life of the word, I don't care how much of these scriptures you can quote. And he said, nay, Father Abraham, but if one went unto them from the dead, they will repent. No, they won't. And he said unto him, if they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded through one rose from the dead.
That's right.
Okay, let's see if we can help you understand why they won't. Okay, do you remember when? I'm going to get you to remember when now. Do you remember when Jesus went back and raised Lazarus from the dead? The other Lazarus I'm talking about now.
Right.
Y'all remember when he went back and raised Lazarus from the dead? What happened after that? After he raised Lazarus from the dead, they wanted to kill Jesus and Lazarus again. And they saw this. So do you think his brothers would really pay any attention to Lazarus coming back to them from the dead? They have seen Jesus raise Lazarus. They saw this. Visually, they saw this. And they still wanted to kill him. And now you're talking about sending somebody from the dead to go and talk to him? No, they're not going to pay that no attention. You had the Messiah in your face. You've already buried Lazarus, had him wrapped up. He started stinking and everything. And you saw this man come back and raise him from the dead, and you wanted to kill them both.
You're right.
Of course not. They're not going to pay this no attention at all. They had Moses, they had the prophets, they had Lazarus, they had Jesus, they had all these, but yet they still didn't do what was right. So in order for his brothers to get to paradise and not go down there, his brothers have to stop doing what they're doing, because undoubtedly they're living the same lifestyle that he was living. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said anything.
That's right.
This rich man had to understand that the way that he lived, let's stop and say this here. We got to understand that all the possessions in the world that we hold here on earth do not follow us. When we leave from here, we can't take that with us.
Sure won't.
That stuff is here for whoever else pick it up. Just like after this rich man died, his brothers separated and divided everything. He was rich and he would want us to live the same way. How do they know what he would have wanted? When this rich man died, he died hateful. Let me stop saying that. Okay. I'm going to change it, because I've already told y'all not to assume. So I'm not going to assume myself. I'm going to say, based on this story, he didn't live the way that he should have been living. Okay, because if he would have lived the way he should have been living, he wouldn't have opened up his eyes in hell. See, because hell is where you go by not doing what God says do.
Right.
Paradise is where you go by living the life that God intended for you to live. So, being that this rich man opened his eyes up in hell, that meant somewhere along the line, he didn't do what God asked him to do. Because if he had of, he'd have been in paradise with Lazarus.
That's right.
But I'm sure that wasn't going to happen, for the simple fact that Lazarus sat at his gate in torments, in agony, in pain,
Right.
this whole entire time, hungry,
Yeah.
and was not comforted by him not once. Matter of fact, in one of these Bibles, I can't remember what Bible it was, but in one of these Bibles, this story that they're telling, because Lazarus touched him, the rich man took off his coat, his out of garment, and said, "Burn this, because it is now infected." That's what he said in that Bible. I don't know how true that is. I just know that that's what it said in that Bible. Just like I told y'all before, don't pay no attention to the story really, because it's a parable. And parables Jesus used to get us to understand what he was talking about. So I'm not going to say that this is a true story, but these are true events. Because we have seen people treat people just like this.
Oh, yeah.
So these are true events. And God is telling us that if we don't get ourselves right now, we're going to wake up just like this rich man.
That's right.
And let's just take rich off of it. We don't even have to be rich. If we don't stop doing what we're doing, if we're living wrong, we're going to wake up in hell.
That's right.
We're going to be punished and tormented every day. And many of us know that what we're doing is wrong. We're doing it because we want to. Many of us, there's married couples, and a husband or a wife will step out of the house and say, "Hey, I'm going over to sisters, or I'm going to brothers. I'll be back in probably 4 or 5 hours. If you need me, call me," or something like that. And come to find out, they're going to meet with their side piece. they know it's wrong.